this video, I'm gonna talk about the fundamental theory of calculus. Specifically, I'm gonna spend more time on the first part, since the second part, most of you are usually familiar with it already, because, well, from definitely integral. So I will spend more time in the first part because this is where people are more confused about. There is a whole paragraph that you might not understand anything, so I'm gonna skip to whatever is useful for you, which is right here. Okay. What the fundamental theorem of calculus is telling you is that if you have an integral of, let's say, f over s ds, and it's going from a constant to x. So x is not a constant, x is not another variable, so it's going from a constant to a variable, and you are differentiate the whole integral with respect to this variable. So you can see that there are a few things you need to be careful with. One is this, the lower bound has to be a constant. The upper bound should be a function of x, or other variable, but depends on whatever you differentiate with respect to. Function of x here, I'm gonna say, because we're differentiating with respect to x. So those two should match. Okay, so if you are taking d over dt, for example, then here should be a function of t. If that's the case, then after differentiating, whatever you have is basically sub this in here. Okay, so put this x in this s in bracket here. Okay, wherever you have s, you replace it with x. That's whatever you can get. Okay, so it's kind of like, oh, they cancel out with each other, and you're left with f of x. So that's how fundamental theorem of calculus part 1 works. However, a lot of the time, what you'll see for the upper bound is not just x. So I'm gonna talk about this right here. So let's say you have again d over dx, and you have an integral. Okay, and lower bound is still a constant, but upper bound, instead of x, you have a function of x. So you can have like g of x, for example, and then you have f as ds here. Okay, so in this case, there is a little bit more you need to consider. First, you still replace this s with whatever is your upper bound here. So that's gonna give me f of g of x. However, because here is a function of x, we need to use chain rule, so you need to multiply by the derivative of g of x. Okay, this part is using chain rule. And this is what a lot of people will make mistake. They forget about the chain rule part. So instead of remember this version, I would recommend you to remember this version, because, well, if you have x here, then it's just multiplied by the derivative of x, which is 1. That's how you only have f of x. So this version of fundamental theorem of calculus part 1 is the one I recommend you to remember.